I was born on the crest of the wave of baby boomers. It wasn't so much a wave, and people don't talk about it much now, but it was a tsunami. I mean, we just came sweeping across the landscape. They built schools for us. We got the new school books, we got the new desks, everything was new. When we grew up, they were building towns for us. Tyson's Corner just celebrated its 50th birthday. That's on us. We manufacturers and every businesses were catering to the crowd, not because we were so great, but because we were so many. And so many, yeah, that brings me, of course, to Little League Baseball. You saw that coming, right? When I was 8 years old, I went out for the tryouts for Little League, and they had twice as many boys there as they'd had the year before trying out. And this was a problem for the men who managed the program in our town, because every year they'd send a few boys home and they'd keep the rest, but they couldn't send this many home. There were just too many to do that with, and this caused them a problem. So it took them about a week to figure it out. You see, the Little League was based on the majors, on the professionals, so that all the boys were wearing little replica uniforms, and they had the names of the teams. There were the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers and the Athletics and the Senators and all the big teams, and they they just didn't know what to do with us because they had a fixed number of teams, fixed number of players on each team. So what they finally decided to do was to set up a minor league with what they called farm teams, and they had enough of us so they could set up this whole farm team system. Now, we didn't get the replica uniforms. What we got were plain white t-shirts with the name of our team written across the chest in block letters. Our letters were royal blue, which matched the baseball cap we got, no insignia on the cap. My team was the Cats, which wasn't so bad when you consider the other domestic animals it could have been. And it didn't really matter because we could play. We could get out there and we could play. It was great. Now the regular Little League, when they played their games, they had a ballpark. It was set up like the big ones. It had an outfield fence with advertising signs on it. It had a manicured and sculptured infield and everything with a raised pitcher's mound. And it had bleachers and a backstop behind the catcher and dugouts for the players to sit in. We got bases. And we played literally on fields. But again, it didn't matter. We got to get out there and play our game over and over. It was great. I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, I don't know who won the championship that year. I know I don't have a little plastic trophy hidden in a box somewhere, but I also don't know the kids who did. Who remembers? I don't know any stats. I don't know any scores. Wait a minute. Hold on. I do know a score. We were playing that day on one of the fields with grass on them. This was Texas, so we had fields with no grass. But the fields with grass, they would mow, and a home run was when it landed in the weeds. On the other fields with no grass, the umpire behind the catcher had to decide whether that was a home run or not, and led to some consternation. But anyway, we were playing on one of the grassy fields, and this field in the off season was a place where cattle grazed. It was literally a cow pasture that had been cleared off for us to play on. The day was overcast, dark purplish type clouds, and they kind of distorted the lights. The colors were a little off, and it was humid. And I don't know if any of that made the difference, but we lost. We lost by a score of 116-6 in the third inning. Game called on account of darkness. We played all afternoon. When my kids were playing, this is years later, they changed the rules so that no team could score more than 10 runs in an inning. But when I was playing back in my day, you had to get those 3 outs. And we couldn't catch the ball, we couldn't stop the ball, we overthrew, we underthrew. It was the only game where I remember the coaches actually doing things during the game because they kept switching people around, hoping to find some combination that would work. I played in the outfield, I played in the infield, I was a pitcher, I was a catcher, all within 3 innings. Nothing worked, you know. And when we left, though, we weren't crushed, we weren't traumatized, because it was just so damn weird. This was Twilight Zone stuff. We couldn't get anything right. Now, but that was that game. And later on, wasn't too much later in the season, there was another day I recall when the regular Little League didn't use their fancy field every day. And on the days when they didn't, they let the minors come up and play a game there. And this was our first turn in that field with the bleachers. So my parents came to see the game because they owned a store and they were all dressed up all day and they just didn't want to go out and stand in the dust. So they come for bleachers. And they came, they were sitting up there, and it was a beautiful day. And I was playing right field. That was my position, because nothing ever happened in the right field, and that was my specialty. I was assigned according to those strengths. And so as a result of being a right fielder in the Little League, I had never caught a ball in the game, because flies just didn't come out our way. Occasionally I'd chase a grounder that bounced out, but that was about it. It was pretty much a dull thing. And the weird thing about this field was that the infield seemed so much farther away than when we played on the other fields. And it was hard to keep track of what was going on way up there. You know, periodically I'd see all of my guys start to trot back to the dugout, and I figured, well, the inning's over, you know, so I'd run along behind them. Until the 6th inning, I'm standing out there, you know, enjoying the clouds and whatnot. And the batter whacked a long fly ball. I looked at that and I said, boy, that's going somewhere. And then I realized that somewhere was me. And now what do? Do I run up on it? Do I drop back, left or right, or son of a gun? I caught the ball. Well, I caught the ball, you know, and everybody's yelling and cheering and whatnot, and of course they should, you know, I deserve that. And then I realized what they're yelling and cheering is, throw the ball, throw the ball. And I thought, I don't have to do that. I caught the ball, he's out, nobody can do anything. You see, I didn't know about the rule that runners on base, when there's a caught fly ball, they can tag the base and keep running, you see. And I thought everything had to stop dead. And I'm there, and finally the euphoria lifted a little bit, and I saw there were people running around down there. And I thought, well, maybe something's going on, so I threw the ball back in. 2 runs scored. So instead of being the hero, I was kind of the goat, but nobody made too big a deal of it. It just sort of prevented me from doing any bragging about my spectacular catch. But on the way home, you know, it had been a good day. I'd learned a new rule, and I caught my first fly ball in a game. It was great. That's what the game was really all about. And there is another one I want to mention, which is toward the end of the season. We played that same team again that we played earlier, the one that had beaten us so badly. And by now, we had our skills up. We were better than we had been in the beginning. But we figured so were they. And they were. Their record was better than ours. So our hope was that we just wouldn't get beaten as badly, you know. And we got out. This time we played on the elementary school campus. They'd drawn up a field there. And we got out there. It's a beautiful day. And we actually won. We won by a score of 104-9 in the 4th inning, game called on account of darkness. I have never seen or heard of 2 games so lopsided in baseball anywhere. And of course, the word karma was not in popular usage then, but there simply is no other explanation. And we didn't have a feeling of victory or in your face or anything. It was just too weird for that. It was really spooky. And so by the end of the first season, I can say that Little League baseball is good for boys, and that it teaches them personal growth and self-confidence. And you also learn that sometimes you lose when you don't deserve it, and sometimes you win when you don't deserve it. And which is kind of fits our generation, I think.